Hello, bookworms! Welcome back to the Bonified Bookworm. I'm your host, Rachel, and if you're here to read along with me and improve your English. So, I'm going to try to record a few episodes today, and I am still standing. I kind of like the standing, like I feel more engaged or something. So I did want to give a quick review. I finally had time to finish James Patterson's 4th of July. It is part of the women's, hold on, I always mess it up, I always say it wrong. I thought I had it right, and then I was like questioning myself as I was about to say it. Where did it go? Where did it go? It's the Women's Murder Club. And so this book, and I've talked about James Patterson before. One of the things I really like about his books is that he makes very small chapters. I'm talking 3 or 4 pages, and it's freaking awesome because it's almost like reading a short story. Like if you don't have time to just sit there and read these like crazy long chapters, like Diana Gabaldon's chapters or Robert Jordan or something like that, like these crazy chapters where they're almost like a novella, you know. So I really like that he does that, and I'm going to start trying to maybe adjust how I write so that maybe I'll just make smaller chapters because it's just really nice for your reader. I don't know if it's some unwritten rule or maybe it's a English rule that your chapters are supposed to be so many pages long or words long or something, but who cares? Write how you want. Be James Patterson. So with this book, one thing that cracks me up is like when I read reviews on it, like it says, unquestionably the best book in this series, bookreporter.com. Like sometimes I question, I'm like, really? Because he has tons of books and he's going to write more in the series. I know there are more in this series, but it's like you're kind of like putting that out there too quickly, I feel like. So with this book, I could see why the perpetrator was the perpetrator, but I felt like there could have been a little bit more of a hint. But having said that, I mean, I kind of guess you could say I didn't see it coming, so maybe that's why it's a good book. But I feel like that there should be some hints, like some clues, where you're kind of questioning, is it this one or is it this person? Is it that person? Is it several people? Who is it? You know, I didn't really get that from this book. I kind of felt like the antagonist, who I thought it was, would be the antagonist. So it's still a good read though. I still like these books. You know, you kind of get to know the characters, and it's almost like reading an episode of some kind of true crime, not true crime, but like a, what am I trying to say, like watching a sitcom on TV, like some type of show. Like there's always going to be the conclusion and you're usually happy with it, but you get to know the characters, which the more I read, the more I understand that I'm much more of a character person. I enjoy reading the character, learning about the character, seeing if the character changes, things like that, and then having the good mystery. So I enjoy getting to know the characters for me. So anyway, so there's that, my little quick review. Still worth reading. I enjoyed it, and it's a summer book, 4th of July, so that was nice to coincide with the summer. So now I have to decide if I'm going to read something completely different or if I'm going to go ahead and read the 5th book in the series. So I haven't decided yet. Still debating. Like I said, I really enjoy these books because they're easy to pick up and put down because of small chapters. And pretty much every other book that I'm thinking about reading has your traditional, like, long ass chapters. So, I don't know. We'll see. So, we are going to pick back up with Touching the Void by Joe Simpson. and Joe made it down to the lake. He is yelling, screaming for help, hoping that they haven't left yet. And when we left, he was still just yelling. I was trying to see if anybody had popped up, but no. Yeah, he's still just trying to yell for help. So let's pick back up with Joe and see if someone finds him. Let's see. He said, "Help me!" The howl keened out into the darkness, and the wind and snow seemed to have swallowed it the moment it was uttered. I thought it... Oh, I'm sorry. We're picking up on page 187, about halfway down. I thought at first it was an electric flash in my head, like the sudden blinding flashes which had flared after falling into the crevice. It didn't flash. It kept on glowing, red and green pulsing colors into the black night. I gaped at it. Something floated and glowed ahead of me, a semicircle of red and green hanging in the night. A spaceship? Stow me, I must be bad, seeing things now. Then muffled sounds, surprised sleepy sounds, and brighter lights flicking out from the colors. A spray of yellow light suddenly cut out from the colors in a wide cone. More sounds, voices, not my voices, other voices. The tents, they're still here. The thought paralyzed me with shock. I toppled sideways off the boulder, landing in a crumpled heap on the rocky riverbed. Pain surged up my thigh, and I moaned. In an instant, I had changed to an enfeebled, sobbing figure, incapable of moving in any part of my body. Something which had held me up, kept a flicker of strength pulsing, had evaporated into the storm. I tried lifting my head from the rocks to look at the lights, but to no avail. "Joe! Is that you? Joe!" Simon's voice sounded cracked with strain. I shouted a reply, but nothing came out. I was sobbing convulsively, retching from the spasmodic heavings in my chest. Incoherent words were mumbled into the dark. I turned my head to see a bobbing light approaching in a rush. There was a sound of stones rasping underfoot and someone shouting in a high-pitched voice of alarm. "Over there! Over there!" Then the light flared over me, and all I could see was the dazzle of its beam. "Help me. Please help." I felt strong arms reach round my shoulders, pulling me. Simon's face became abruptly visible. "Joe! God! Oh my God! Fucking hell! Fuck! Look at you! Shit! Richard, hold on! Lift him, you stupid bastard! God, Joe, how? How?" Too shocked to realize what he was saying, his words tumbled out in an obscene litany. Expletives said for no reason, a meaningless stream of obscenities, with Richard hovering nervous, scared of the pain. Dying. Couldn't take any more. Too much for me, too much. Thought it was over. Please help. For God's sake, help me. "It'll be okay. I've got you. I have you. You're safe." Then Simon was hauling me up with his arms round my chest, dragging me, heels bumping over the rocks. Dropped heavily by the doorway of the tent in a soft glow of candlelight from within, I looked up to see Richard staring down at me, wide-eyed with apprehension. I wanted to giggle at the fuss, but tears kept crawling from my eyes, and I could speak no words. Then Simon dragged me into the tent and laid me gently back against a mass of warm-down sleeping bags. He knelt by my side, staring at me, and I could see a confusion of pity and horror and alarm fighting in his eyes. I smiled at him, and he grinned back, shaking his head slowly from side to side. "Thanks, Simon," I said. "You did right." I saw him turn quickly away, averting his eyes. "Anyway, thanks." He nodded silently. The tent was full of warm light from the candle. People seemed to hover over me. Shadows played on the tent walls. An immense tiredness seemed suddenly to drain my strength. I lay still, feeling my back pressing through the soft down. Faces peered over me, 2 faces, constantly appearing in brief visions, confusing me. Then Richard was pressing a plastic mug into my hand. Tea, hot tea, but I couldn't hold it. Simon took it from me, helped me sit up, and then fed me the tea. I saw Richard busy over the gas stove, stirring thick milky porridge, spooning sugar in it as he stirred. More tea followed, and the porridge, which I couldn't eat. I stared across at Simon, seeing the haggard tension in his face and the shock in his eyes. For a moment, nothing was said. With a start, I recognized the last time I had seen Simon look at me in this way. He had stood at the top of the ice cliff and stared at me for that moment too long. That instant moment when I knew he had accepted I would die. Then the spell was broken and we burst into a torrent of questions, all blurted out at the same time, yet mostly unanswered. In that long, silent meeting of eyes, every question had become futile, every answer superfluous. I told him of the crevice and the crawling. He told me of his nightmare descent after the cutting and how he knew I was dead. He looked at me then as if he couldn't quite grasp that I had come back. I smiled and touched his hand. "Thank you," I said again, knowing it could never tell him what I felt. He seemed embarrassed and quickly changed the subject. "I've burnt all your clothes." "What?" "Well, I thought you weren't." He burst out laughing at the expression on my face, and I laughed with him. We kept at it for too long, and the sounds were harsh, almost manic. Hours went by without us noticing, and the tent filled with a babble of voices, blurting out our stories. Laughing at the money search, and all my underwear now burnt outside the tent. Endless cups of tea given with concern, and now a deep abiding friendship. And at every gesture, a touch on the arm, a look, an intimacy we would never have dared show before, and never would again. It reminded me of those storm-swept hours on the face when for a short time we had played parts in our very own cliched third-rate war film. Simon forced me to finish the porridge as Richard prepared fried egg sandwiches. It seemed I had swallowed a different drug with every sip of tea, painkillers and Ronicol and antibiotics. I balked at the sandwiches, unable to swallow the dry bread. "Eat it," Simon said sternly. I coughed at the dry bread catching in my throat and mouthed at it helplessly. I could get no saliva into my mouth, so despite his order, I spat it out. "Right, let's take a look at your leg." He had suddenly become stern and efficient. I started to protest, but he had already begun to cut my tattered over trousers with a penknife. I saw the blade slicing effortlessly through the thin nylon material. It was red-handled. My knife. The last time it had been used on me was 3.5 days ago. A spasm of fear ran through me. I didn't want any more pain. Not today, at least. Sleep was what I craved. Warm, downy sleep. I flinched when he raised my leg to pull the trousers away. "It's okay. I'll be as careful as possible." I glanced from him to Richard, who looked as if he was going to be sick. I grinned at him, but he turned away and busied himself with the stove. I was both excited and apprehensive to see what my leg looked like now. I wanted to know what had been causing me so much agony, but I was scared of seeing it rotten and infected. Simon unzipped my gaiters and gently released the laces and Velcro catches. "Richard, you're going to have to hold his leg down. I can't pull the boot off unless you keep it firm." Richard hesitated by the stove. "Can't you cut the boot off?" "Yes, but it's unnecessary. Come on, it'll only be for a second." He moved to my side and held my leg gingerly below the knee. Simon began pulling at the boot, and I screamed. "Grip it tight, for Christ's sake." He pulled again, and the pain seemed to balloon up from my knee. I squeezed my eyes shut and whimpered at the gathering flood of fire in my knee, praying for it to stop. "Right, got it." The pain ebbed quickly away. Simon threw the boot out of the tent, and Richard hurriedly let go of my leg. I think he'd had his eyes closed as well. My polar trousers followed, sliding gently from my legs. Richard moved to the back of the tent, and I sat up expectantly. When Simon pulled my thermal long johns off, we both gawped at my leg in astonishment. And we're going to stop there. If you have your own book, you can just continue reading if you like, but we'll hold off there and come back to see what Joe's leg looks like. And we've just got a few, oh, just barely any pages left. So the next episode will probably be pretty short. Hope y'all have a great day, week, month, wherever you're at. Hope it's great, and see y'all next time. Bye.